All right, have you ever heard of taking a box cake mix and turning it into a bakery cake? I saw this on Pinterest and I had to give it a try and it works. So we are going to be using a spice cake mix. That's one of my husband's favorite kind, and I'm going to show you how to do it. Okay, and these are the ingredients. A box of spice cake mix, 3 eggs, vanilla, cinnamon, ground cloves, allspice, ginger, a stick of butter, and some whole milk. Now, if you were going to use a different kind of box cake mix, let's just pretend you were going to do a vanilla cake. You would substitute the water for milk and the oil with melted butter. Also, you can add a little bit more vanilla just to give it more of a vanilla taste. If you're doing this with a chocolate cake mix, you could also add extra cocoa powder, or you could use instant coffee to give it that real rich flavor. So really, any cake mix, you can add some extra ingredients that make sense with the cake that you are baking. All right, for this bakery style spice cake, the first thing I'm gonna do is go ahead and prepare my pan. So I have a 9 by 13. I'm just gonna give it a good spray. And then set that to the side. And then I have my mixing bowl, and I'm using my hand mixer because I just made some ginger molasses cookies using my KitchenAid. And so let's start with the spice cake mix here. I should have opened it up already. What are you guys making for Thanksgiving? I'm usually in charge of the ham, mashed potatoes and gravy, and then all the desserts. And I do make my homemade cranberry sauce, which is really good. All right, so I'm just gonna dump this cake mix into my bowl. I have my little garbage bowl right here. Okay, and then like I said, we are going to be substituting. Instead of water, we are going to use whole milk, and you could use 2%, that kind of thing. But this calls for 1 cup of water, so I'm going to use 1 cup of whole milk. I mean, this is Thanksgiving. Let's bring on the heaviness. Okay, and the next thing I'm gonna do is grab my melted butter. Okay, so the recipe had called for a half of a cup of oil, so we're using the butter instead. Just get my spatula, scrape all of that out. Okay, and then it calls for 3 eggs. And what I usually like to do is, if I'm cracking eggs for cake, I like to crack them into a separate container to make sure I don't get any shells. Nothing like biting into a piece of cake and getting a shell. Ugh, I don't like that feeling. All right. So this calls for 3 eggs. Come on. All right, there we go. All right, I don't see any shells in there, thank goodness. Let me wash my fingers real quick. So now, before I add those eggs one at a time, I'm gonna add the seasonings that make sense. Maybe I should say the spices that make sense for a spice cake. So I'm going to add just a little bit of ginger. I mean, I really feel like these kind of ingredients is what you think you would like to taste. Like, we really like ginger. And then I'm just gonna do a little bit of allspice because it's pretty strong. And then I'm going to do a little bit of ground clover, which is really strong. Just a couple shakes. And then I'm going to add cinnamon. We love cinnamon, so I'm gonna add some extra there. And then I'm going to add a little vanilla. And almost always, if I'm making a box cake into a bakery cake, I will use vanilla because vanilla is in almost any cake. So I'm just gonna add a little, probably probably like a teaspoon of that. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and start my mixer. Now that I have it partially mixed, I'm gonna add one egg at a time. Okay, then I'm gonna take my rubber scraper and just kind of scrape down the sides and then give it one last mix. Now I can tell you when you substitute the milk and the butter, I can tell that the batter is a lot more fluffy. Okay, again, I'm just gonna scrape down and then I'm going to pour it into my prepared dish. Now, if you wanted a real thick cake, you can add 2 of these boxes and just double the ingredients. But this is gonna be a thinner cake, only because we're gonna be having so many desserts. So I didn't wanna make like a majorly thick cake. So here's my prepared pan, and my oven is preheated to 350 degrees. And I'm gonna make sure I get all the goodness. This is a nice, fluffy batter. This will also, and when I say bakery cake, this will also make your cake more, people don't like the word, but I'm gonna say it, moist. Because sometimes the cake mixes can be pretty drying. We don't like that. But that's also because if they are overbaked, they will dry out as well. Okay, make sure I have all this goodness. And then I'm just gonna take my rubber scraper and I'm just gonna even it out. You're gonna hear Joey coming through the door. He just got off of work and now he has a 4-day weekend. Super exciting. Hello, babe. We're filming. All right, so I'm just gonna get the rest of this batter off my clean finger. Don't worry, everything's fine. All right, I'm gonna get this into the oven and I'm gonna have this in the oven for about 24 minutes and then I'm gonna check on it, test it with a toothpick and see where we go from there. Okay, the cake was in the oven for 24 minutes and then I did an additional 8 minutes because it was still not fully cooked, but it smells amazing. Time to make the icing. For our cinnamon cream cheese icing, you'll need powdered sugar, a block of softened cream cheese, 1 stick of butter softened, vanilla, and cinnamon. All right, first we are gonna cream our cream cheese and butter together. You may hear some background noise. You know, we're living here on the farm and Mr. Joey is setting up all the furniture for the big turkey day. The big turkey day tomorrow. All right, so just pop this cream cheese out. It has been sitting since the morning, so it really should be nice and soft. And then I'm just gonna scrape anything that's left. Right, don't wanna miss out on that cream cheese. And then I'm going to get my softened stick of butter. Look, I usually 99.9% of the time use salted butter. The salty and the sweet to me is a winner. All right, so I'm gonna get my mixer and I'm gonna go ahead and start by mixing these 2 ingredients together. All right, little mix there. Go ahead and scrape the sides. Again, I made ginger molasses cookies, and so that dough is actually in my KitchenAid bowl, which is in the fridge. I like to refrigerate my cookie dough before I bake it so the cookies don't spread so far in the oven. All right, give this another little whirl. All right, so now I'm gonna go ahead and add my next two ingredients. Okay, I'm gonna use about 2 teaspoons of vanilla. And when I say about, 2 teaspoons will work. I don't measure everything, and if there's a certain ingredient or taste that I like better, my family likes better, then I will add a little bit more. But 2 teaspoons is safe. Also, if there's something that we don't like as much, I may cut back a little bit. All right, then I'm gonna go ahead and add my cinnamon, about a teaspoon or so. We also really like cinnamon. All right, let me give this a little mix. All right, this looks good. I'm just gonna push down the sides here, and then we're gonna start with our powdered sugar. And for this, we are gonna need 4 cups of powdered sugar. Gosh, that seems like a lot, but it's delish. It's Thanksgiving, the calories don't count. All right, so we're gonna use a liquid measuring cup. This is a 4-cup measuring cup. So I already used my other one and it's in the dishwasher, so we're just gonna use this. And then I'm gonna measure 4 cups of confectioner's sugar. Again, if it's not exactly perfect, like, it's totally fine. People usually don't ever complain about my cooking or baking, so we just go with the flow here. Give it a little shake, a little bit more. I think this looks good. Yep, looks perfect to me. So I'm just gonna add this in increments, just a little bit at a time, probably like a cup at a time. All right, this looks perfect. So I need to wait for my spice cake to cool off before I can add my frosting, because then you're just gonna, when you put it on, it's just gonna peel the top layer of the cake right off. And it may still do that, but you can hide it with the frosting. Like I said, there is cinnamon in the frosting, but after I frost the cake, I like to add a little bit more of a sprinkle of cinnamon on top. So our frosting's done. I'm gonna put it to the side, and we are gonna work on our pumpkin pie next. Alrighty, here are the ingredients for the pumpkin pie. 2 eggs, 1 can of sweetened condensed milk, that's a 14-ounce can. 1 can of pumpkin, not pumpkin pie filling, but just pumpkin puree. I believe that is 15 ounces, yep. We'll also need cinnamon, ginger, nutmeg, ground cloves, salt. I am using a pre-made pie crust, and here's my pie dish. All right, let's get started. To start, I'll tell you, I do not grease my pie dish because the fat that's in the pie crust will keep it from sticking. So this had been sitting out for about 15 minutes. So I'm just gonna lay it right in. I am not a professional pie, crimper. I'm not a professional crimper. All right, so I like things more organic, or rustic. If you use the word rustic, then it becomes special and looks more impressive that way. I'm just trying to avoid any, if there's like a little crack, I'll just try to push the dough together. And I just make sure that the dough is pressed into the sides. Now, this is a large pie pan for this smaller of a crust, but it'll do just fine. No big deal at all, okay? So our pie crust is in the pan. All right, now we're gonna mix our ingredients. So the first thing that I'm gonna do is pop open this can of pumpkin puree. Now, if you wanted to make it easier on yourself, yes, you could use the pumpkin pie filling and just add a couple ingredients, but we would like to make this homemade today. So I'm just take my lid off. I've got my rubber scraper. Might as well get all the bits you can. And then I'm going to add this can to my bowl. Yum. Well, not quite yummy yet, but it's a very pretty festive orange. Okay. And scrape out that bottom. All right, perfect. All right, now we are gonna add our next ingredient, which is our sweetened condensed milk. Pop the top. Okay, if you want, you can also scrape that lid off. Pour this in, and you definitely need to scrape this because it gets really stuck, especially on the bottom. Ooh, that goodness. You can make pumpkin pie using white sugar, but I really prefer the sweetened condensed milk. Okay, so sweetened condensed milk's in. Now, I'm going to go ahead and add 2 eggs. Yes, I could pre-beat them and then pour them in, but you know what? I'm not here for an extra step, you know? Okay. Ooh, I see a pie or an eggshell. Ooh, see, this is why you do it in a separate thing and I didn't. But I see it. And I got it. All right. Second egg. All right, no shell in there. Let me give my hands a wash. And then we are going to go ahead and get some of our spices in here. I'm gonna switch this to a whisk. I do not use a mixer for my pie, I just use a whisk. So, what the recipe calls for is 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. Y'all know I'm not going to measure my cinnamon. We love cinnamon. So I'm gonna just add a good amount of cinnamon. You don't have to. 1 teaspoon will do if that's what you'd like. And then a 1/2 teaspoon of ground ginger. We like that extra spice. Now this one's not coming out as easy, so I'm just gonna lift this side. Just give it a little, you know, you don't wanna pour it, get a ton in there. So that looks good to me. And we have some nutmeg, also a 1/2 teaspoon. Okay, and then our cloves, which I know do not come out of these little holes. And this is very strong. So this is a 1/4 of a teaspoon. I mean, like I said, we like things flavorful around here. So that is definitely more than a 1/4 of a teaspoon, but just you do what your family likes or what you like. And then a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. You ever see anybody measure when they're baking and just have the whole container of salt? It's just me. That's how I do it. You can measure a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. All right, I'm gonna get my whisk, and then we're gonna whisk all this goodness together. Oh, just wanna mix this until it's incorporated. All right, that looks good to me. So let me grab the pie crust. Now we're gonna pour this directly in. No need to pre-bake your pie crust. Okay. Ooh, yeah, this is one of my favorite things. Now, there's some controversy about pumpkin pie, whether you like it hot or you like it cold. How do you like your pumpkin pie? I am a no doubt cold with whipped cream. That is the best. All right, just scrape all that goodness out of there. And look, it fits perfectly. Now, you are going to put this into a oven preheated at 425 for 15 minutes. Then you're gonna turn the temperature down to 350 and cook for an additional 35 to 40 minutes. but I'm gonna go ahead and stick this in the oven 15 minutes for 425. All right, and the cake has cooled off, so I went ahead and put the cinnamon cream cheese icing on and then added extra cinnamon on top. I know it's nothing fancy looking, but it tastes awesome. Now, this will get stored in the refrigerator because it'll keep that cake nice and moist, and then with the frosting, it'll kind of steep in and make it even better. All right, pie's in the oven. We're gonna move on to the next. All right, next we're gonna be making homemade cranberry sauce. Now, we like the jellied in the can too, but this homemade cranberry sauce is so easy and so delicious. So you will need 1 cup of sugar, 1 cup of orange juice, and then 1 12-ounce package of cranberries. And I just put them in the colander and give them a good clean. All right, so I have my pot here. You could probably use a saucepan as well because it's not a large amount unless you're doubling the recipe. I have my pot here on medium heat. And first I'm gonna go ahead and measure out 1 cup of sugar. Looks good. I'm gonna put that in the pot. And then you can tell I measured my dry ingredients first because then if I did my orange juice first, we'd have a little bit of a mess. And then 1 cup of orange juice. Looks good. And then I'm gonna grab a spoon. So I'm gonna pull you guys in a little bit closer so you can see a little bit better. Let's see, right there. Perfect. Make sure we're stable. Everything's good. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and cook this until the sugar's dissolved in the orange juice. And this is just gonna take about 5 minutes. All right, so now our sugar is dissolved in the orange juice. So the only thing I have to do left is to dump the cranberries in. It's simple as that. Now, these will need to cook anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes, depending on the sizes of your cranberries. And how you'll know is they'll start popping, and you can literally hear them pop. It's kind of fun. So they will cook medium heat about 10 to 15 minutes. Okie doke, so it has been about 12 minutes, and as you can see, or if you can see, a lot of the cranberries have popped, and you will hear them make little, it's not as loud as popcorn, but you can hear them, you know, pop here, pop there. So what I'm gonna do is turn my heat off, and then I'm going to remove my pot from the heat. And I know, actually, let me show you. I know it looks very liquidy right now, but as it cools down, it will thicken up into a cranberry sauce. So we're just gonna let it sit until it cools, and then I'm gonna transfer it into a glass storage container once it's thickened up and cooled down a little bit. All right, so we did a few recipes together. It is the day, actually, it's the evening before. What time is it, honey? Oh, both the timers are running. It's 5:45 and I'm ready to eat my hand off because I'm so hungry. So we just have the pumpkin pie finishing up in the oven. The cranberry sauce just has to cool off. I went ahead and wrapped up the spice cake with the frosting on top and put it in the refrigerator. And so, yep, we're the evening before Thanksgiving, and tomorrow I have two more desserts to make, and I'm also in charge of making the ham, so I will be sharing that with you as well. So it's gonna be somewhere around 7 recipes that are gonna be on this video. Now, I know tomorrow is Thanksgiving, but it's not like Christmas is super different from the menu at Thanksgiving. So hopefully you can use some of these recipes at your holiday dinner. All right, we will see you tomorrow. Almost forgot to show you the pumpkin pie, and for some reason on camera it looks like the edges of the crust are black, but they're not, they're brown. Anyway, I'm really excited about this tomorrow. After this cools down for just a little bit, Then I'm going to stick it in the refrigerator overnight until Turkey Day tomorrow.
Good morning, everybody. It's Thanksgiving morning, and I was just showing you, this is normally our dining room, and my husband came up with this great idea, as he normally does. And so we turn, because we have a lot of people coming, so we turn our living room into our dining room. It's not set up yet for our Thanksgiving dinner, but we line our long farm table up to another 6-foot table and then put chairs all around so everybody can be at one table. So it's kind of cool to convert your dining room and your living room to make space for Thanksgiving. And there's Miss Moon, always saying hello. All right, I've got to get this ham in. Oh my goodness. It's the real deal, baby. Leftover makeup from last night because I was so tired after cooking. So looking a little rough this morning, but we'll clean up the edges today before we start celebrating Thanksgiving. Anyway, my wonderful husband went to Starbucks for me to get me a coffee because I just need a little extra something this morning. I actually quit drinking coffee. I was drinking decaf, but I told him I need the real deal today. So anyway, he's going to pick that up. I've got to get this ham in the crock pot, and I have the easiest way to make a delicious ham, okay? So let's go. Okay, so we need to get this ham in because it's going to take a little while to cook. So I went ahead and put nonstick spray into the crock pot. And then all you do is take brown sugar, and it's just like less than 1/2 inch. You just spread it around the bottom of the crock pot. We have gotten our ham from Aldi, and it's 11.6 pound ham for 20 bucks. Not so bad. So I've got it right here. Big old ham. And I'm gonna put the flat side down. Woo! As you can see, the lid will not fit. It's okay. We are going to be using tin foil. But first, we need to finish topping our ham here. So, just like we put a layer of brown sugar on the bottom, I'm just going to pour some brown sugar in my hands. And I'm just going to spread it over the ham, just like this. This just gets that crispy, yummy ham crust. Because we are going to be cooking this in the crock pot for a few hours. Let me see, it's 9 o'clock right now, so I'm going to be cooking this in the crock pot until 1 because we're eating it, or people are coming over at 2, so we'll probably won't start eating till 2:30. So I want to make sure that I get the ham in the oven about 1 o'clock. And the reason why I do that is it helps with the crispy edges. So delicious. All right, I gotta wash my hands real quick. All right, so the next thing I do after I just kind of put some brown sugar over the top, if you only have pineapple chunks, you could do this, but I'm using the slices. It's kind of more traditional, I suppose. Now, I'm just gonna let that sit on top, but my other slices, all I'm gonna do is stick a little toothpick in there. Just kind of decorate the ham with the pineapple slices. But it's also really going to give it flavor. Okay, so I've got my pineapple, my little toothpickers here. And the next thing I'm gonna do, so I did drain most of the juice off. Mr. Joey loves pineapple juice, so I gave him most of it, but there's just a little bit left in the can, so I'm just going to kind of pour that over the top a little bit. And then kind of put it in the bottom of the crock pot. You do not have to do this. Alrighty. I had my hand in there because there's a little bit more pineapple in here. Okay, so the next thing we're gonna do is add our tin foil because the lid won't obviously fit tightly. So what we're gonna do, you don't want to
put your tin foil over the crock pot because then the juices are going to be all over the counter. So you want to first, and it's okay if the toothpicks come through, you want to first put the tin foil with it in so the juices go in the crock pot. And then I'm going to do another layer just to tighten things up over the crock pot. We just want to make sure that this really seals in the heat. I'm gonna do one more piece over here. And sometimes if your ham almost fits in the crock pot, it'll shrink down as it cooks and you can eventually put the lid back on. Okay, so here we go. So now our juices will drip inside, but the extra layers will keep it cooking nice. Hey, and if you want to just have extra measure, put the lid on top to keep the foil down. All right, so I'm going to put my crock pot on high and I'm just gonna let it cook until it's time to put it in the oven at 1 o'clock. For our next recipe, we will be making peach crumble pie. You will need 3 cans of sliced peaches and their own juices. Each can is 29 ounces, but you will be draining the juice off from the peaches. You will need 2 pie crusts, quick oats, like the quick cooking oats, a half a cup of butter plus 2 tablespoons. You'll need ground cloves, nutmeg, cinnamon, salt, 3 eggs, sugar, flour, and brown sugar. All right, let's get started. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do, I have my oven preheated to 375 degrees. I've had these pie crusts sitting on the counter for about 15 minutes. That's just so they're easier to unroll and hopefully won't crack. Now, I am going to see, this is a 9 by 13, so I'm gonna just see what this looks like. I realize that pie crusts are round and this dish is not. So I'm going to just kind of play around with this, and I do have an extra crust in case I use it. Now, I'm tripling this recipe. Normally, I would make this recipe in a pie dish with 1 crust, okay? But because we're having this for Thanksgiving, we have a lot of people coming over, I was like, what if I take that and turn it into kind of like a peach casserole, a rectangular pie. So, I mean, I think it's gonna work here. I think we're gonna be okay, because I really wanted it to come high up on the edges because it's gonna be a lot of filling. And I really didn't want, I mean, I may still have some juice go over the pie crust, but hopefully it won't. And why aren't you coming out? Oh, there we go. Okay, so I'm gonna unroll the second one. I'm doing pretty good on time. We have people coming over at 2, but I still have to, like, you know, shower and get ready. All right, so I'm gonna try to stretch this up the sides. I don't care about the overlap. I want the overlap because that's gonna, I can press them together and that's gonna help to seal those juices on the inside. Now I can foresee, maybe I need to scoot this down just a little bit and say, I wanna make sure that I have enough going up the sides too. This is going to work because I said it will. I'm putting it out there in the universe. Okay, this is looking good. And it's not like this is going to slice like a pie, obviously. You know, it's more, I guess, like a cobbler with a crust, if you will. So I'm just pressing in. gonna press the crust together, make sure I don't have any cracks. And this is looking good to me. Okay, I wasn't sure how many crusts I was gonna need, but this looks good to me. So this is, again, a 9 by 13 pan. All right, this looks good. Put this to the side. All right, and I'm gonna grab my bowl. I love to clean up as I go, so I'm not left with a humongous mess. All right, so the first thing I'm gonna do, I know I need 3 eggs, so I'm gonna crack those in the bowl first, because if I get any shells, I'll be able to see them and pick them out. So, actually, I'm gonna take this out so I can whisk the eggs. And there's a shell, see? Thank you for that example. Perfect. Okay. There we go. No shells there. The last one. Good. All right. Let me give my hands a little wash. All right, hands are clean. I'm gonna grab my whisk and just whisk these eggs together. We're also making ginger molasses cookies today, but I've already done a video on that. I can link that in the description box if I remember. I'm pretty sure I will. I got the dough together yesterday to let it sit in the refrigerator overnight. And then my little sweet Ellie is going to put those together and bake those to help Mama out today. Okay, so I've got my 3 whisked eggs, and now I'm gonna go ahead and plop my peaches in. Okay, these are drained. Now, if they're not perfectly drained, it's okay. I got most of it off, you know. Here's our wonky can, so that's fun. All right, and our 3rd can. I'm just hoping that this isn't too much filling for that 9 by 13. And if it is, you learn. The more you know. Okay, now the next thing, I know this is gonna sound absolutely insane, but we need to add 3 cups of sugar. Now, of course, you could use stevia, or you could do 2 cups of sugar, 1 cup of stevia. You could do 1 cup of sugar, 2 cups of stevia, you know, that kind of thing. But this is Thanksgiving, where the calories don't count, so they say. All right, there's 1. All right, well, that's 2-ish for this. I know you shouldn't do it over the bowl, but I like to break my own rules. 2, last 1, a little sugar chunk, 3. Okay, that's gonna be good enough. All right, so I'm gonna give this a little bit of mix to start. All right, and now we're gonna go in with our next ingredients. All right, I need 3 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. Let me grab my flour. Oops, I just shot flour everywhere. Yay. All right, 1, 2, 3, perfect. Give that a little mix. And then we are going to go in with our melted butter. So if you remember when I showed you the ingredients, it was a 1/2 cup or 1 stick of softened butter. The 2 tablespoons that were extra just need to be melted. So just add that on in. Give that a stir. It's looking delicious. It actually looks a little funky, but it smells delicious. All right. Last ingredient before we pray and hope that we don't have too many peaches for our pie crust, we're going to add some cinnamon. Oh, about 3/4 teaspoon, but y'all know, I just can't measure it all, you know, and I like a lot of cinnamon, so I'm adding a little extra. So, just because I'm giving you a recipe, you can always change it according to what you like. And I feel like that's my reason for not measuring. I'm just trying to make excuses. All right, so I'm gonna make sure all that cinnamon is well mixed into this peach goodness. All right, here comes the moment of truth. All right, I think what I'm gonna do, instead of just like pouring it on, I think I'm gonna get a ladle to start, because I have a feeling I have too much pie filling. But I just wanna give it a go, make sure you can see what I'm doing here. And if I have too much, I have more pie crust. And if this doesn't work, then we know it would work for a pan larger than 9 by 13. There is a lot of juice. I thought I strained the juice off pretty well. All right, we're gonna do something else. Look, we're doing this together. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to be all perfect over here. I'm gonna use a slotted spoon. Drain off some of those juices. So I want to get as many peaches as I can. I know this is going to turn out fantastic. Oh, gracious. I'm going to go ahead and say right now that I should have only used 2 cans of peaches. My bad. I'm always trying to overdo everything. I don't know, maybe not, because this is looking like I might have a little space. All right, hold on, maybe I'll be okay. All right, don't doubt yourself too early, hold on. We're almost there, good gracious. All right, I did fit all the peaches. Hooray, applause, woo! Okay, so obviously I did not drain the peaches well enough. That's okay, life happens. I have a lot of extra juice there. So it fit and it looks great. I'm not mad at it. Just when you do it, make sure you drain your peaches. A lot better than I did. All right, so here it is in the crust. Now we're going to make our topping. Okay, we are going to add 2 cups of the oats. So these are the quick cooking oats. 1, and which is gonna be wonderful for absorbing some of the liquid here. And 2, perfect. Got our oats. All right, the next thing that we're gonna do, I'm just gonna go ahead and plop this softened, and you really do want it soft, stick of butter. There we go. And I'm gonna start working that together first into the oats. Okay, so I've got that 1/2 cup or 1 stick of butter that was softened. You could have melted it, it would have been easier to stir, but I like mine more crumbly than just like liquidy. So our 2 cups of quick oats, our 1/2 cup of butter, and then we're going to go with more brown sugar. Okay, so this, I'm just gonna add about 1/4 of a cup. Since there's so much sugar in that recipe. Yes, it's not measured. You're right, look at me. Remember, brown sugar's packed, so you add a little bit more than you think. All right, come on now. Don't be shy. It's gonna be yummy in that oven. Oh yeah. All right, there we go. And then I'm going to also add about 1 teaspoon of salt. And that was salted butter that I did use. Okay, there we go. And 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, or whatever to your liking. And then I'm going to add 1 teaspoon about of nutmeg. And then we're gonna do 1/2 teaspoon of the ground cloves because this stuff is strong. Okay, there we go. All right, super easy. See, I think the reason why I didn't get all the juice off of the peaches, the best thing to do would be to put it in a colander and let the juices drain out. But my husband loves to drink fruit juice. So I just poured it from the can and drained it into a cup for him. And then I mixed it with pomegranate juice and made him a little Thanksgiving drink. I don't know. All right, so I'm gonna just stir. I just don't like to waste. Y'all know me, I don't like to waste. Okay, just give this a really nice stir. Again, my oven is preheated at 375. And I'm going to check this at 45 minutes and see where we're at. Now, obviously, if you were just doing 1 pie crust in a pie pan and cutting this recipe into 1/3, it wouldn't take that long. I would probably check it at 30 minutes. All right, there we go. So let me pull this back and I'm going to pour my crumb mixture right on top. This looks awesome and it smells amazing. Okay, slides out super easy. Man, this is gonna be good. So what I'm going for here is like that juicy, peachy stuff in, for the filling, and then like a buttery, salty, brown sugary, crispy topping. Oh, it's gonna be so good. One thing is when I'm using a bigger dish to cook something like this, I like to use glass because it can be really deceiving if the crust gets a little darker on top and then you look at the bottom and it's like white. So you really want to make sure that you don't have your oven rack too high. Just keep it in the middle and that should work. All right, 375. I'm gonna put this in the oven, check it at 40-45 minutes and see how it's going. Alrighty, for our next recipe, this is the easiest one of all. If you want your house to smell great and you don't have a lot of time to put things together, this is the one for you. This is Crockpot cinnamon rolls and apple. So you are going to need 2 cans of cinnamon rolls, 2 cans of apple pie filling, nutmeg, cloves, cinnamon, and 4 tablespoons of cold butter. That is it for this delicious dessert. However, it's a lot better if you serve whipped cream or vanilla ice cream over top. So let's get it going. Alrighty, so this is literally, other than buying something store-bought at the store, this is probably the easiest recipe that I've ever done in my life. Okay, so I am going to pop open, I've already sprayed my crock pot really well with nonstick spray. And then I'm gonna pop both cans, not jars, of the apple pie filling with a little help from my rubber spatula. Here we go, all right. And you just want to dump both cans in and just kind of spread it evenly over the bottom of the crock pot. Now, this is a great recipe that if you were feeding a lot of people, you could double or triple this depending on the size of your crock pot to feed a large group, and super affordable. All right, so that's the first can. Let's get the second can. All right, so as you can see with my video today, I am the baker of the family. I do make a lot of other things, but I'm normally the one in charge of the desserts. So what do you like to make? What's your traditional? I know a lot of people do the pumpkin pie, but is there anything else that you do as a traditional dessert for your family that it's like you can't have Thanksgiving without? I would say, of course, pumpkin pie for us, but I change it up every year. We don't really have exactly the same thing. All right, so that's 2 cans of the apple pie filling. You can tell, I mean, I still have a lot of space in my slow cooker, so if I wanted to make this a lot more, you know, full of volume, I could, but I'm making so many other desserts that it would be silly to add any more than this. Okay, so I've got my apple pie filling in. The next thing I'm gonna do is add some of my seasonings. So I've got some nutmeg, I'm just gonna sprinkle on top. Of course, this apple pie filling is already full of these kinds of ingredients, but I just really like to step it up a little bit and add a lot of cinnamon. And then lastly, I'm going to add some cloves. Let me just pour a tiny bit in my hand here. And then just sprinkle over the top. Okay, that looks good. All right, put this lid on. And then I'm going to get the 4 tablespoons of cold butter. And I'm gonna get my cutting board over here. Let me peel off this paper. And so what I'm gonna do is just cut this butter up into little cubes and sprinkle it over the top. Okay, always love to have video suggestions, so if you have any, let me know. All right, here we go. Just sprinkling this 4 tablespoons of cold butter over the top. Now, we're not eating this until dessert. People are gonna be here at 2, so I'm just gonna have this cooking low and slow, and then I'll check it, you know, probably an hour before we would eat it and make sure that everything looks good. And if it's already cooked, I may just either turn it off or just keep it on warm. Okay, so after that's done, now that my hands are slippery, I have to open these cans of, where's the little thing, of biscuits. And so what we're gonna do with these, let me just smack it against the counter. I'm just going to cut these into 4ths and sprinkle them over the top. All right, so I have 2 cans of these, and hold on to the icing. We are going to use it. I'm gonna push this back, and then I'll just show you how I cut them up. Oopsie. All right, behave. There we go. All right, so I just have my 1 roll here, we'll just say. I just cut it into 4ths and then just put them right on the top. That's it. This is so easy. And like I said, this will make your house smell so good with all the cinnamon and like the roll part, like the bread baking in the crock pot and the apples. Oh my gosh, so good. Okay, all of the cinnamon rolls have been cut up into 4ths and sprinkled over top of that cubed 4 tablespoons of butter and the seasonings, or the spices I should say, and the 2 cans of apples. So the only thing I'm gonna do is put the lid on this. And about, right before we're supposed to eat, I'll remove the lid and then I will open these and give them a drizzle on top, just because there's not enough sugar already. All right, here is the peach crumble pie. Just came out of the oven. So it ended up being in there for about between 50 and 55 minutes because I wanted to make sure that the bottom of the crust was nice and golden. You can see it is on the sides. Ooh, those are some ginger molasses cookies in the back. Ooh, yum. All right, like I said, I'll link that recipe. So there you go.
Here are the desserts. Peach crumble pie. We had made some sugar cookies, pumpkin pie, our spice cake with cinnamon cream cheese icing, ginger molasses cookies, and that cinnamon apple bake. Thank you so much for spending some of your time with me today. Please let me know if you try any of these delicious recipes, maybe at your next holiday gathering. Thank you for watching.